Okay, gang. Guess what? It is time for yet another StarCraft 2 Balanced Team community update. WCS Summer just finished. So obviously people are kind of ready for a bit of a balance change before GSL versus the world is, I guess, in a while. We've got Assembly coming up in just a week's time, though, I believe. So I'm not sure when this is going to go down, just after Assembly or what. But basically they've said, look, 2 weeks ago we announced our plans to propose and test two separate sets of possible changes for the next big versus patch. Since our last community update, we've gotten a great deal of constructive feedback from the fruitful community discussions around the first set of changes proposed. We're now ready to introduce proposal number 2, which will replace proposal number 1 in the testing tab later today. Partly because of generally positive feedback, both possible iterations of the next patch will include the following. So they're saying, look, these changes are still going through. They're still in the test map. The stim buff, where it has, of course, 21 seconds reduced upgrade research time. The EMP AoE boost to give it an extra half a range, staying in. Carrier interceptor build reduction from 11 to 9 seconds, softening the nerf to the carrier a little bit. Still going to be a weaker unit though. And of course the recall going way up in cooldown from 85 to 130 seconds. Now this was a funny one. In addition, we saw a bug report circulating around various community forums describing how the infested Terran's infested rockets weapon ignores armor. We plan to roll out a fix for this along with this upcoming patch. Since this bug fix has a similar effect to our initially proposed infested rockets change, we'll just be replacing the change with this bug fix instead. Wait. Infested rockets have been ignoring armor this whole time? What? God damn. How did no one notice this earlier? This has been like a year? How long is it? How many tournaments have happened with this? Oh, no. My man. How long has that been around? Did this just get posted on Reddit recently, or did this get posted a while ago? Apparently there were Reddit threads that found the bug. Was this super recent? Or what? Please update me, chat. Get me some links and stuff so I can figure out what the hell has happened there. Apparently it got posted about 3 weeks ago, but I mean, it would have been active forever, or is it do they think it's just since the most recent patch? Because it would be really funny if it was one of those things posted 3 weeks ago, everyone's been talking about. Sounds like it happened when I was on holiday in Vietnam or just after I got back, so no doubt I missed that discussion. They're really good at killing air units. Just their stats are incredible, so the fact they were ignoring armor, that was making them way stronger versus battle cruisers, especially, which have 3 base armor. But yeah, I mean, basically you would get +3 on them because they get attack upgrades and they would go up to a crazy amount of damage. And, you know, someone with +3 armor would not help against that. That really does explain just how powerful they were, I guess. Now, for proposal number 2, they said, look, these are the new changes that we're proposing and we're going to put into the testing tab. Warp prisms no longer start with the warp conduit passive ability, and warp pins. Jargon. Basically, they're getting rid of the warp prism changes, guys. They're making it so the warp prism is always fast warp in. Once again, you don't need the upgrade to turn it into fast warp in. They said, look, this change is a significant redesign, does a good job of addressing multiple issues in one condensed stroke. However, some of these issues include the strength and variety of Protoss all-ins in Protoss versus Zerg, the harassment strength of warp prisms, and the overall power level of Protoss is, of course, inherently tied to that. In its stead, we'd like to make the following additions with proposal number 2. So for Zerg, they want to reduce the cost of Overlord speed from 100 to 75 to try and allow Zerg to scout a little bit better, especially against their Protoss opponents, to differentiate between tech choices and the various immortal-based timing attacks. They said they've heard varied opinions from pro gamers regarding the efficacy of this change. We want to be very careful the Overlord speed openings don't become omnipresent in either ZVT or ZVP. Yeah. I mean, you don't. I think if they made it 50-50, I actually would have been upset. I would not be happy with this being 50-50. I do feel it's like a really good upgrade, and I just feel like you don't want to give people like 100% scouting, right? If someone wants to commit to a Phoenix or a Viking and some Marines on the edges and hide their tech in a really like clever corner in the back of their base, like you shouldn't always be able to scout that, you know, unless you invest a lot of money in doing it, right? I think it's okay to make it just a little bit more accessible. 25 doesn't sound like a lot, but when you're going an OV speed opening, that's very early in the game. 25 minerals, 25 gas, it adds up. That's an extra drone. So I think that's a nice little tweak to Zerg scouting. I'm okay with it. I'm absolutely okay with this. I'm sure there'll be people screeching on either side of the corridor on that one. It's not enough. It does nothing. On the other side, it's bullshit. Overlords are already too fast in Legacy of the Void. Yeah, we'll see. As always, let me know your thoughts. Discussion is always good. Protoss, Warp Prism cost increase from 200 to 250 minerals. All right, I'm okay with that. Does slow down some all-ins slightly, 50 minerals. Obviously does, you know, make that transport cost a little bit more. It says, look, it's perceived as a powerful unit. It's got a lot of utility, provides harassment and all-in opportunities. We believe the cost increase will more accurately reflect the unit's power level. I'm down with it. And the Warp Prism pickup range decreased from 6 to 5. And this is the change which I was saying, well, rather than kind of messing with the warp ends, which could be good, but it affects so much. This is a softer nerf where you're like, it's going to cost slightly more, and it's got slightly less extreme pickup range. So you can't be like picking up in the middle of Stim Marines fighting your Immortals without risking your Prism going down just a little bit more. You still probably can do it just fine most of the time, but it's like, it's just going to come that little bit closer to the battle. You can't have it sieged up behind a PvP battle where you're both at 120 supply of Arc on charged on Immortal. There's an Arc on Immortal line versus an Arc on Immortal line, and your Prism is both warp in mode, reinforcing 10 Zealots at a time, and able to pick up units from anywhere across your line and save them on low hit points and drop them back out. You know, like, it's just softening the Warp Prism micro slightly. I still think the best players are going to do amazing things with it. I'm very curious to play with this and kind of feel how much one range is, because you know, you can look at a number and be like 6 to 5, and you kind of have an idea of what that means, but you don't really have an idea until you test it out. So I really want to actually feel that change. So I'm keen to hop into the testing map. We view the Warp Prism range pickup as one of the more positive additions to Legacy. It provides many skill testing micro opportunities, encouraging Protoss to poke at their opponents without overly committing their army. It allows top players the ability to distinguish themselves. On the other hand, the large pickup range can be frustrating to play against and contributes to the potency of Immortal all-ins. As such, we think there's room to adjust the opponent's ability to interact with the Prism, and the level of risk the Prism must put itself in while it juggles its cargo. Our primary concern with the suggested change in the current landscape is that it could potentially impact PvZ macro openings more than it would PvZ all-in openings. So basically saying, you know what, it might actually hurt the defense of the Prism a little bit too much with its ability to kind of save Immortals and ferry them away. And, you know, they're kind of afraid of like these Queen Roach Ling all-ins. You know, you guys know, like Ravager Ling all-ins and stuff, and suddenly your Prism can't quite save your Immortals and you die. I think that's kind of what they're getting at there. We'll see. Because I get pro play, it often is like people are like, Immortals are so bullshit, and then you're like, you know, if the pro players, like, you do realize like Zest has 2 Immortals and a Prism to defend 36 Roaches, and the Zergs are like, yeah, how bullshit is that? He can defend that with that. And the pro player's like, no, that's all he has. He has to micro perfectly because you're fucking Zerg and you build a billion things. The Zerg was like, yeah, but it's bullshit that his 2 things can kill myself. The person's like, no. It's unfair that I only get these 2 things in the Prism. And, you know, there's like this disconnect where everyone just wants to kind of complain, right? And like, it's just funny. I like being a random player because I kind of go, I can kind of relate to both sides of the argument. Zealot charge, additional impact damage decreased from 8 to 0. This is a huge change, guys. For those who don't know, basically, Zealots got buffed in Legacy of the Void. They made it so they always hit a fleeing target. That's staying on it. It still retains the ability to always hit a fleeing target. So it says fleeting even, I guess. Fleeting, fleeing, same thing. So basically, yeah, like you guys might have seen a clip of Roddy where he charges with a Zealot and then he keeps changing targets with it. And it like charges like 3 screens to like last hit this unit in this like base trade where they were down to like 2 units each or something. It's just awesome, right? Because basically the charge, if your opponent ran away far enough, the units would just like finish their charge and be like, oh, I didn't hit anything. So they gave them guaranteed charge. Once you upgrade charge, Zealots get a passive movement speed buff in Legacy of the Void as well. But they also gave them this 8 damage increase, which is massive. Because charge has a very quick cooldown, not only are you getting more and more definite and reliable hits in Legacy of the Void because of the way that charge works, where the Zealots will connect, which is usually the weakness of melee units, is if your opponent positions right and kind of pulls back and stutter steps, the units can't actually keep landing hits, right? They keep being like, oh, get back here, let it. Whereas if you could pull off a surround with Zerglings, with Ultralisks, with Zealots, they're going to keep landing hits, and you see the real raw power of the stats of most melee units. The problem is they couldn't actually force that engagement. How often does your opponent let you surround them in a battle, right? So this was always an issue with melee units. They fixed that with that charge boost, but they also gave it +8 damage on each charge. And that meant on charge, you would always two-shot Zerglings, even without a +1 attack upgrade. It would just add so much raw damage in so many situations. So it did give the Zealot as this incredibly cheap high stats unit just massive, massive power boost. And this is from speaking to Zerg and Terran pro gamers. Protoss pro gamers agree with it, but obviously it's the other races that complain, right? When I talk to them about balance over the last 2 years, Zealot charge has been one of the big things that comes up time and time again. People say Zealots are too good, charge lots are just too good. And obviously it's part of the way charge lots interact with the warp prism, the fact you can, send this little 200 mineral two supply unit into the main, warp in 12 Zealots, and suddenly, oh god, there's 24 supply of Protoss in my base. And that only costs minerals, which are kind of not the important defensive units for Protoss and important late game. The important resource for Protoss is always gas. So Zealots are this kind of incredible unit where at points in Legacy of the Void, I've kind of had styles which just rely on 2 warp prisms, double upgrades, and just sending Zealot counterattacks in all game long. We see people, kind of drowning Terran players sometimes in these Zealot charge styles while taking 5 bases. So it's a very powerful change to the Zealot from its kind of not nearly as powerful position in Heart of the Swarm and Wings of Liberty. Now, I think some of that was needed, and I think this was some awesome changes, and I think it's given Protoss some real power to their play. At the same time, was it too strong? I guess we're kind of investigating that now. We're saying, let's take the damage off. We'll keep the hitting the target. Let's see how it goes. I want to test this out. I have no idea exactly how that's going to go, guys, but definitely things like the Marjorie build, big direct nerf here from this and the 50 minerals on the Prism. So Zealots contribute greatly to the power level of Protoss in all matchups, whether they're used in direct engagements or as part of a harassment role in combination with warp prisms. In both of these roles, we believe Zealots might be slightly too powerful relative to their cost and the control required to use them. Hey, they're making fun of people attack moving and winning games. They're making fun of Haas. Haas made it to the finals of Valencia off the back of a 3-base charge Zealot all-in, essentially. This is a direct nerf to Haas's WCS Valencia style. Our intention with this change is both to lower the frontal power of the Protoss army and to slightly diminish the strength of Zealot harassment throughout the game. In PvZ, this change will also allow unupgraded Zerglings the ability to take additional hits from charge lots without that +1 ground weapons. It also means if you want to go Zerglings, mass Zergling Baneling style, getting +1 carapace early to counter a fast +1 is actually an incredibly useful move again. This used to be something where if you could get a really fast carapace, you would cancel out the Zealots +1, so they would still take 3 hits. And the difference between 3 hits and 2 hits to kill a Zerglings, big percentage. 2, 3. Seems like close numbers, but when you're dealing with small numbers, it's a big difference. All right, I'm going to not give terrible maths analogies. Don't worry. In PvZ, this change will allow unupgraded Zerglings, yada yada. It would also restore the relationship between weapon upgraded Zealots and Yep, same thing. An interaction that dates back to the original StarCraft, bringing back some history with the carapace versus weapon relationship. Yeah, our general rationale for breaking apart all the aforementioned changes is that we believe they represent 2 distinct approaches to addressing many of the same issues. So there's kind of saying, look, we had the first changes we tested to address these issues. Now we're trying different things to address the same issues. For the charge change specifically, we believe not only that it has overlap with the Prism warp-in speed change, but the severity of both changes combined would also be too extreme for a mid-year balance patch. So they're saying, look, if we nerf this Zealot damage and we slow warp-ins on the Prism, there will be Protoss pitchforks outside the Blizzard campus in Irvine. So, you know, just they would be dealing with a Protoss siege. They'd have disruptors getting dropped into the Blizzard offices and shooting some goddamn purification novas in there. They'd be getting Tide Pod dust all over their clothes. As this change is one to a core Protoss unit that is used at all phases of the game in all matchups, we plan to be extra attentive to how it plays. If it does end up going live, we'll be careful to monitor how significantly each matchup changes, yada yada. You've heard the changes. Give us feedback. We'd love to read the BattleNet forums. We want to hear your intelligent debate. What proposal do you like better? People who are definitely worth listening to. Is there anything you would tweak from either proposal? We look forward to hearing from you once again, says the person whilst dying inside that had to type that. Oh my god. Much more reasonable. But can we address the fact that cannon rushing is a major topic right now? Even if it's balanced, I'm not convinced it's healthy for the game. Let's find ways to make it less cheesy. Actually, that's pretty good as far as comments go on BattleNet forums. Reasonable set of changes. Thanks for not getting... Oof, feels... BattleNet forum? What the fuck is this? Where's people crying? Where's the all caps post telling the Blizzard people to go hurt themselves? What's happening, StarCraft community? What have you done? This is not the community I remember. Not on the BattleNet forums, at least. When we guys fix the Oracle damage bug, that's it's not really a bug. It's it's like part of the Oracle. Oh my god, even this person's being nice about it. What? Good and reasonable? I hope this change makes it through. It's like the most edgy thing we've heard is damage charge is with charge is OP. Ugh. I thought I was going to find some juicy stuff in those comments. Apparently not. It's like, everyone's like, good changes, Blizzard, but maybe you should also consider this. Wow. BattleNet forum. I'm not going to scroll down. I'm sure if I scroll to the bottom of the page, there's going to be a real cesspool. So for those of you who are wondering, I was talking about charge and how it always connects. It doesn't always connect, guys. It doesn't always connect. We're gonna watch a clip of Rotterdam here in just a sec, and we're gonna see. But it doesn't always connect. Like if you wall your units in, so there's just no way to get in. You'll see like Zerg players wedge their roaches in a mineral line, and the Zealots are like, oh, we just like they can't move through stuff to get the hit. But anyway, let's take a look here at Roddy.
So this tank like barely lives, right? And that's really bad for me because I need to kill it. So now at this point, you've got two Zealots. This is a guy who believes that things are impossible. But this guy over here, this guy says, impossible is nothing. Look at this little guy in the back. Let's just take another look at that. This man does not take no for an answer. And he kills the tank. Fucking amazing.
Oh my god, I love Roddy so much. Whenever Roddy gets that laugh of pure glee, it's like it activates that pure joy. It's like seeing a baby laughing or something, you know? It's like this pure innocent happiness. Oh my god. So that is, of course, the Zealot charge in action there. They are keeping that function of the Zealot. It's just removing the 8 damage on it. Guys, let me know your thoughts. I'm going to quickly take a look at Twitch chat and see if there's any good immediate discussion, which we can throw in the video. Where are those changes listed and can I find them? They're linked in chat right below your comment, Wolfen53. If you're on YouTube, they're in the description of the video right below. Check it out. Being elitist is funny. How? Don't know what we're talking about. Free units shouldn't get upgrades. Oh, that discussion's going to be going way too deep. Can't talk about that one. The team should have addressed late game Zerg in general, and the Nidus and Infestor especially. Oh, the Infestor is being nerfed by them fixing a bug that none of us knew was there till a few weeks ago. I didn't even realize it was there the whole time, where it was ignoring armor. So they are very softly touching the Infestor, and they're also giving the carrier a very slight buff. So because it's a mid-year change, and realistically, even the last end-of-year change was very soft, because I feel like the StarCraft team, they've become a bit unadventurous, in my opinion. I'd like them to be a little bit more out there, especially with the end-of-year one. I want them to like turn the game upside down and just shake everyone's playstyles on the floor. Like, I feel like the StarCraft community is like those kids. You ever go to a kid's house and like all their Lego was perfectly built in the things that it's meant to be? Like, you buy an airport, you build it one time, right? A Lego airport. And then your Lego airport is built, and then you break it apart and you make like random spaceships and Mad Max cars and like just different shit out of it, right? But there's that one kid who just leaves it as the airport on his shelf, and he's got like the fire station and the airport and the fucking electric monorail that goes around and shit. And you're like, I want Blizzard to not be the nice kid that comes in is like, oh, I best not break your Lego. No! Go in there and stomp on that kid's Lego and force him to use his creative goddamned brain, break some things, put him back together in new ways, have some exciting fun. At end of year especially. So I feel like Blizzard could be a little bit more adventurous with kind of just, shaking it up. Mid of the year, I understand they don't want to do it in the middle of the season, so I see why they're being tentative. Yeah, it's interesting. I do think, Zerg super late game seems very powerful. Terran super late game seems OP as well, though, to be honest. You guys seen Terran super late game? You guys watched Innovation and Maru drop 400 nukes on a map? You're like, this is just broken, man. Nukes are so OP. Like, it took till 2019 for us to realize that nukes are OP. I had to make myself a bloody nuke emote. I've got a stupid boom emote because I've in the 7 months of this year so far, I've probably dropped like 4,000 nukes in StarCraft games. Because when it goes to late game, I've realized like, oh, it's really hard to like get out on the map and do a push. And I'm like, it's fine. I can turn the entire map into a nuclear wasteland. That being said, I need 5 to 7 Ghost Academies, 7 bases, and a whole bunch of other stuff. So it's not something where I kind of sit there and I go, nukes are OP, because I very rarely get there. Now, obviously, I think nukes is like mass nuking a map is the extreme example of endgame, right? That's extreme. Broodlord Infestor comes in a little bit earlier. So I could definitely get behind maybe a little bit more of an Infestor nerf there on the Infested Terran. Or maybe getting rid of Burrow Neural. I think it was Puck who was talking on the Pylon show about, he's like, man, I just don't want, suddenly to lose my mothership and a whole bunch of stuff because I happened to lose my observer, in the previous fight, and his whole army can cast spells while invisible. And I was like, yeah, fair enough. Like, I'm okay with that. I don't know. I think there's a lot of ways they could go about addressing Zerg super late game. I don't think that affects any of us. Like, I've never seen anyone below, like, Masters 1 really play endgame, like, properly. Because, like, both sides, I feel like, don't have control groups usually, and they both just kind of, like, they kind of have some late game units, but they don't really know how to use them. So, like, I feel like either side, with some small adjustments, could very easily beat the other player. But usually, like, I feel like the player is very quick to blame their late game results on what they see in pro matches. So just remember, when we talk about balance with late game Zerg being too powerful, we're talking about Cyril and a couple of his mates being, like, disgusting in endgame, right? We're not really talking about everybody else. So keep that in mind. It doesn't really affect you guys on the ladder or me. It doesn't really affect me very much either. But thank you very much for hanging out, guys. I definitely agree with the Nidus Worm being very powerful as well with how cheap it is. So that's an interesting question. People brought up the Nidus Worm because it's so cheap, right? I think the Nidus Worm is okay where it's at now, but I do think it's very powerful. So I'm with you guys on that one. This is kind of like one of those things where you're like, yeah, it like gets played for a lot, then it doesn't get played that much, then it kind of goes in and out, and then we might see it fade for a few months. And then like 6 months from now, it'll just be like dominating every game, and they'll finally like nerf it, right? Because it takes a while for players to find where it fits in the play. Often it comes out, it's really strong because it's new and people don't know how to deal with it, and people start crushing it, people stop doing it as much. It takes a long time. Same thing back when you could cast Fungal while burrowed, which I was like vomiting all over my desk when I first read that Blizzard was like proposing that. And I was like, guys, don't put this in. Don't do it. It's terrible. The ability to like AoE damage and root an entire army from burrowed is the most unfair thing I've ever heard in my life. in a game where your units automatically clump up? Do you know how angry anyone is going to be when they're moving across the map and an invisible unit just fucking... It's like having an invisible High Templar. Imagine if you got a DT and a High Templar and they both just started banging. They were banging, and the High Templar was like, oh shit, I'm pregnant. She pops out an invisible fucking High Templar that does 45 damage ranged auto attack while being able to cast Storm while permanently invisible. I was like, that's unfair. No. So likewise, when I was like, the Infest is too powerful, it'll have to get nerfed, and it was like a year later that people started abusing it more, and then they nerfed it. Is it going to be the same with Nidus Worm? That's the question. I think, yeah, it might be. I think it might be. So I think you guys have some really good ideas, some good suggestions, some good discussion. I think maybe the Nidus Worm is a bit too cheap. Maybe I'll have to raise it to like 75 gas, 75 minerals, maybe even 100 again, because it is very powerful when you combine both the unload speed and the fact that it's very, very accessible to kind of just spam down on a map at the moment and can, you know, it can force a massive reaction. So yeah. Yep. I kind of agree on that. I think the Nidus Worm might be too strong. I don't think it's as patently broken as the invisible High Templar. But yeah, that was what a bird infest being able to cast Fungal was. But it's pretty powerful. So yeah, it might maybe get nerfed. It might be. Anyway, guys, let me know what you think of the changes. I'll be on the map testing it. Very keen to test out the Warp Prism pickup range. Especially when like defending Roach All-ins and stuff, see if I can still save all my Immortals and Archons, just kind of get used to that range nerf, and of course see how Zealots go. I'll probably do a lot of Zealot All-ins and just see how it feels, as well as just general charge lot based macro styles. It's going to be a lot of fun, guys. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you next time, and we'll do another video once they actually finalize the balance changes to keep you guys up to date. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and click the bell to get notifications. I think that's a thing here on YouTube. I don't know. See you guys later. Thanks.